Well, tonight, with the release of those staggering job loss numbers, we're going to ask some of your questions about jobs and the economy. Our CBC News senior business correspondent, Peter Armstrong, is back, along with personal finance journalist Rubina Ahmed-Huq. Some of the questions are general. Our first one, though, to you, Rubina, is quite specific. Will traditional employment insurance be made available after the CERB runs out or ends?
So the short answer is yes. If you qualified for unemployment insurance when you lost your job, you could apply for it after the CERB runs out. If you lost your job between March 15th and October 3rd due to COVID-19, or you lost income due to COVID-19, you would first get the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, which is $2,000 every 4 weeks up to a maximum of 16 weeks. And once that is exhausted, if you did qualify for unemployment insurance benefits, you could then apply for them without the CERB affecting those benefits whatsoever.
All right, specific question, specific answer. Peter, your question doesn't really lend itself to a specific answer, but here we go. The questioner says, I was laid off. What kind of jobs will be in high demand soon?
And it's a trickier answer than it's not as clear cut, right? Because we don't really know how the economy and how the reopening of the economy is going to work. And a lot of it's going to depend, we were talking about this earlier in the show, Ian, it will depend on how we as consumers go back and sort of avail ourselves of a reopened economy. You know, 70% of Canadian jobs are in small and medium-sized businesses, and those are the ones that are most vulnerable and will be most vulnerable to the whims of consumers. That if we don't go back out and start buying from our local shops and shopping in our local stores and going to our barbers and whatnot, those people won't be hiring back as quickly. You know, I think the more traditional jobs in construction and manufacturing will bounce back more quickly. But the real question, and it will be important to the entire economic recovery and the economic growth in this country, is how will those small and medium-sized businesses get back up and running? And so I think that's where we'll see a lot of the jobs either working or not as the recovery begins to get some traction.
Yeah, I stopped at my dry cleaner on the way in here in Vancouver. It had not closed down. He's down to 25% of his business. Lots of distancing inside his shop, but to your point, he's not sure what it's going to take to entice people to come back, even when they're, getting their work clothes cleaned in the future. How safe will they feel? Rubina, here's a question for you. I've recently lost my job because of the outbreak. What will happen when I have to renew my mortgage this fall?
Well, if you stay with the same financial institution, nothing will happen. You will be able to negotiate your rate with your current financial institution, and they will not be asking you for any paperwork. The problem is if you want to move your mortgage to another bank or another financial institution, which sometimes customers do to get a better deal, that would be problematic, because then they would do a credit check on you. You would be required to provide paperwork that shows your income. And of course, if your income is lower, you may not qualify for that same mortgage that you got when you did have a job. So it may hinder your ability to shop around and get the best rate, but really you should still be looking up what the best rate is and asking your current financial institution to meet that, because they probably can.
So an underlying question from many of us is, will the economy come all the way back in Canada to where it was 3 months ago? Here's what Ontario Premier Doug Ford said about that today.
The people of Ontario have been incredible. And we've all been going in the same direction. With their help, I'm confident it might be a little while, but we'll get back to where we were.
Okay, so Premier Ford is confident. Peter, here's a questioner. I'm underemployed. When do we expect the economy to come back strong?
Well, so here we have a whole alphabet of options, right? There's the V-shaped recovery, a sharp down and a sharp sort of recovery. There's the U-shaped recovery, sharp down and then across for a long time before it starts to go up. And I think most people think it'll be more of a check mark, that it'll go down sharp and take some time to come back. We'll get the first indications of what that'll look like, frankly, this coming week, as slowly some provinces begin the first steps of reopening. And we'll have to watch that closely to see how that goes, but what support will be needed. Those federal programs are going to have to be flexible going forward.
Rubina, a lot of pessimism from a lot of people, and probably underscored by the employment numbers we saw today. Do you have an optimistic message for people generally?
Well, generally speaking, the federal government, the provincial government, they're doing everything they possibly can to make sure that people do not run out of money during this time and that people have money to buy the essentials. Despite those numbers being as dramatic as they were, the unemployment numbers, we know that many businesses are raring to go as soon as they're allowed to. So it's not like 2008, 2009, where companies simply didn't know where to go. It's more of the government saying that we are ready to open and businesses starting to, in a safe way, starting to reopen and call some of those employees back. So that's a bit of a positive sign, knowing that businesses want to get up and running. They just simply can't do it right now because they're not allowed to.
All right, Rubina, Peter, thanks to both of you.